Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from Tempe, Arizona, right here at the Max 6 Conscious Workspace and the headquarters for Conscious Capitalism of Arizona. I'm Karen Nowicki, studio owner and host of today's show, and I am very excited about asking and inviting back my friend, Dory Morales with Green Living Magazine. She'll be co-hosting the show today. No pressure, Dory.
I'm very excited to be co-hosting with my friend Karen Nowicki.
Yes, it's so fun. You introduced me to our guests as we were talking a little bit about health insurance and just some of the, the challenges as a small business owner that we've both faced. And you said you've got to meet my friend Joe and Mark. So we'll introduce them in just a moment. But before we do, I want to thank you for being a guest several times, most recently on SciTech Institute's show, STEM Unplugged.
That was a lot of fun.
So fun, right? Helping women and boys, men and women and girls and boys stepping into STEM careers and getting people connected and excited about that. So we're so glad you could be on Kelly Green's show for that segment. Tell us about Green Living Magazine and how you landed with this career.
So I had been in publishing for about 25 years and had the opportunity to partner with my former business partner, John Stacy, and we developed Green Living Magazine because there was nothing like it on the market. It's a niche magazine, and it's an eco-conscious lifestyle magazine, and we just are bringing sustainability to the modern world, and our mission is to educate, empower, and inform people to be more eco-conscious and live healthy lives.
And you just celebrated, I want to say 10 years.
10 years, yep.
Just the last month or two, I think?
It was September.
Yes.
So
congratulations. That's a long time. And just did a rebrand as well.
We did. And a new website.
And how does that feel to be on the other side of all that work?
It's wonderful.
I'm happy to hear that. So it's a print magazine, but also online.
We are a print magazine. We have a digital magazine. We have an online presence. We also do events, pre-COVID, of course. And we are doing Instagram Lives and Facebook Lives and LinkedIn Lives as well, really just to connect the community in terms of eco-conscious living.
Yeah, sustainable living, eco-conscious. And for those of us who have an opportunity to see the video, I'm holding up two fairly recent magazines. The September issue, I remember you and I went out to dinner not too long ago, and I was like, how did you manage to get Deepak Chopra on the cover of the 10th anniversary? And what an exciting cover. And then we have the November issue. So loved having that with us today. So thank you again for being here. Now tell us how you got connected with Hoffman Financial Services. We have with us today Joe Meli and Mark Hoffman. And how did we land on that conversation? I think I said to you, health insurance.
I need to get some health insurance. And I said, well, I need to connect you with my friends, Mark and Joe. They do the health insurance for Green Living Magazine. And my friend Claudia Kretschmer, who I rent office space from, has known Joe for how long?
About 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
More or less.
Long time. Yes. And so as great professionals do, after dinner, Dory followed up with an email introduction. And then we had a brief phone conversation, and we got to meet, the three of us got to meet a couple weeks ago, just really to talk about my needs. And some of the challenges that I'm faced as a small business owner and now a single parent and growing my business and having to keep that in mind. What's a great way to attract employees, and does health insurance need to be a part of that? So without doing all the talking and welcoming both of you into the conversation, please help me welcome Joe Meli, agent with Hoffman Financial Services, and Mark Hoffman, the broker, as well as agent. And would love for either one of you to talk a little bit about who Hoffman Financial Services is and the products and the services that you offer.
Well, Mark, why don't you start with that little background? I'll go from there.
Okay, Hoffman Financial Services started back in 1984. We started with the philosophy that we wanted to help small businesses. And small businesses, they have the challenge of attracting employees. And with attracting employees, health insurance is very important. I have found, talking with employers over the last 36 years, that when they interview employees, one of the biggest topics that come up is a benefit package. So at Hoffman Financial Services, we offer, small and group health insurance policies. We offer dental, vision, short-term, long-term disability. But our philosophy is to get to know people, to bond with people, and to get them to feel comfortable with the products that we sell. And over the years, it's really a people business, one-on-one, not so much. And I know we're in a COVID environment. We tend to do things remotely, but I still found that meeting people face to face, and I think Joe would agree that it's, really important.
Well, and I think too, one of our challenges is that the healthcare industry is evolving constantly. And especially for small businesses, there are challenges involved with that. And we like to update and give the most current information because it changes constantly. And as we see every day, there's something in the news that's going to affect our healthcare. So we continuously try to update our clients, make them understand that there are opportunities for them. And for those who haven't had any kind of update in their plans, we offer the ability to examine those plans and say, well, it's possible that we could do something that will really benefit your company. And exactly what Mark is talking about. It's about retention of great employees and attracting wonderful new ones. And there's nothing more important than having a good benefits package. And these days, it's a little scary to try to navigate that world. That's what we're here to do.
And you'll work with companies with a few employees up to, do you have a cap of how many employees that you are?
We have general agencies that we work with, and we can go well over 1,000 employees. But let me back up a little bit, talk about the importance of the individual. We hear so much about groups, but I'm going to go back 1984 when we started, and I started the career, and I was out cold calling. And I would meet with individuals that didn't have any insurance. And there was a plan out there that Blue Cross sold called ExecuCare. Those of you out there may recall it was a great plan. And it was really important to deal with individuals. And from the individual products and the one-on-ones, people learned that, you could do a group with two or more. And from the individuals evolved group coverage. And this went on. Small group coverage was very easy to get into years ago, back 1984. And it got a little more difficult as we got deeper into the higher costs of hospitalizations, urgent care, emergency room, et cetera, et cetera. And then the evolution, just like the Industrial Revolution in our country, we had a healthcare revolution that took place January 1st, 2014 with the Affordable Care Act. Underwriting, which is the screening to obtain insurance, really, really changed. And they wanted to make it easy for people to get group coverage by not asking medical questions. That was the controversy of pre-existing conditions. You should not have to be declined for insurance because of pre-existing. You should be guaranteed your right for insurance. For a business person, you realize that when you underwrite risk, you can price it more appropriately. Well, in 2014, the small group market became a guaranteed issue market, and the pricing really, really changed. It was great. You didn't have to answer medical questions. You didn't have those goofy little pointed questionnaires, but the pricing went really through the roof. The insurance companies actually started to prepare for the Affordable Care Act in 2012, 2013, and wondering what are they going to be able to do to offer groups competitive coverage. And that's where the infancy of the partially self-funded. Now, partially self-funded is not new to the industry, but it was for groups of maybe 100 to 500 to maybe 1,000. But what about a partially self-funded plan for groups down to 5 lives? And this is where the innovation of the ERISA plans took place, and products were introduced in January of 2014 where you would answer medical questions. You should not be afraid as an employer to offer a plan where you do underwriting because you can get better pricing. And we have products that right down to 5 employees. They're medically underwritten. You don't want to be as scared of it, but we can get good pricing, and they really are good plans, and they're good for the company and competitively priced.
And one of the things that we find out is that, you run a small business, you have many different things coming on day by day. This is one aspect of your business, but it's an important one. And so it's important that we be able to, again, as I said, navigate that for you, because you may or may not know, is my plan the best I could be using? Are my employees best served by this plan? Or is there something better I could be doing? And a lot of times what happens is people just sort of put that aside. Once they've already signed up for the plan, it goes back of mind, and then they continue to use the plan, continue to use the plan. In the meantime, as we said before, it's always evolving. There are always new things coming along. And we specialize in reviewing your situation and saying, well, you're good just as you are, or, you might be able to do better than what you're doing right now. And we always hear from our clients that the one thing they would like is more communication. And a lot of times what happens is folks just get busy, and then a client sort of just does their thing, goes along, no big deal. But that information might not be current, and it might get lost in translation. We don't want that. We want to reach out as much as we possibly can and give you the most information, the most current information, and give you the best value. We're really about the service. That's what Mark is saying. We're about relationships, and you can't form a good relationship without communication.
How often do you feel that you should review your health insurance plan? Should you do it once a year, or?
The health insurance plans are reviewed at least annually. Let me comment on the group plans, okay? Group plans normally give a 1-year rate guarantee. And people, in our perfect world, we would sign a group up on January 1st because that's when the annual deductibles start. But we don't live in a perfect world, and for one reason or another, we'll have groups that have a fiscal planned year. They might sign up in April or May or June, and their rate guarantee for 1 year comes around, and we start 2 months to 2.5 months prior to the renewal. We will go out to bid, and we will shop the market. As independent agents, we represent all the companies that are out there, so we'll put together a spreadsheet, but we get notice, and it's even state law on the ACA that you get notice, both the agent and the employer, 60 days prior to the renewal. So that's how we react. We put together a spreadsheet of offerings, and it's even at that time that we talk about how about dental insurance. People don't realize that if we dig into the health of an individual, that if you don't get your teeth cleaned often, let's say once a year or twice a year, that bacteria builds up in the teeth, and that can cause cardiovascular problems. So the dental plan, your eyes with the vision, go as well with the medical plan, and that all gets reviewed annually. And it's been a real challenge. Again, I'm going to keep going back to January 1st, 2014.
Just completely changed.
Absolutely changed, and the pricing. And what we're finding, and I hope people out there that have small group coverages with that are employers that are listening, that are in the fully insured plan, there are other options out there, okay? There are other options out there that you can look at, and that's that partially self-funded market. And we have a company out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and they use a network, a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, the broad network. So a great package, and you're actually getting better prescription coverage, and you're getting lower deductibles, lower maximum out of pocket, and but we have to show that on the spreadsheet. But that's, I think, the big takeaway. There's more work involved with the partially self-funded plans because you have to fill out the questionnaires. But as Joe and I, we are willing, to go to distance. Nothing ever is accomplished easy, and it's hard work, but you get good results.
Well, and I was going to say, I think that the anxiety level of when we address this subject is very high. And you can imagine why. And small business owners, as I said, they have a lot going on at a given moment. Now we factor in the current situation with COVID and other things. You have employees who are anxious. You have employers that are anxious, and we try to bridge that gap and say, okay, here's a way for us to do this so that everyone benefits. And I think when you're looking at especially retention now, because it's important if people have to work out of their homes or work with video conferencing, they don't have that interconnectedness with their office or their employer as often. And so it becomes really important to understand that you can always be improving that relationship. You can always be improving the top and bottom line by having these options presented to you. And if we have them, we give them. And that's the thing. But it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. And I always explain that to folks that, there's a way for us to do this that's very unobtrusive. Let us deal with the analysis for you, and then we'll just present it to you. But if you continue to look at it, you continue to be diligent about it, the benefits are enormous. Mark is just talking about the benefits of keeping your dental hygiene. But in the spirit of it, it's that there's also the emotional side of things, right? When your employees feel as though they're protected, they're covered, you care about them. One way to care about them is to offer them more value in their healthcare and preserve the cost if you can. That's really one of our things that we want to emphasize. Would you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. And it is a relationship business. Some of our accounts, and Joe and I, we kind of chuckle over a cup of coffee. And how do you manage to keep a client for 30 years? And you grow with the client, and you become more than just agents for these people. You get to know their, the key employees, their families. In some cases, we're in a second generation where the parents have either passed away or have retired and have turned over the reins to the children. And it's very rewarding to work with people on a long-term basis, and almost to the point where the insurance is secondary.
It's a relationship.
It's a relationship. Somebody asked me one time, they says, Mark, what are you going to retire? I said, I'm going to work till I die, and then when I die, I'm going to part-time. It's a great business.
He does say that. He really does.
Yeah. So it is. So, there are, in all honesty, there are so many brokers out there, and everybody says, well, what, you would ask a broker, what separates you from anybody else? Mm-hmm. Well, you got to get to know us, and we have to, we're not just, throwing blowing smoke out there, but we got to come through with good coverages, good plans.
And stay in communication, as you had pointed out.
Definitely.
Yeah, on a regular basis.
And Joe, I know for you felt there was like a need to get into this industry don't you have a personal?
Yes.
It was
yes.
a personal interest story.
Yeah. Well, it comes about because in my family, my mom passed last year, and there was some medical condition she had, and the cost of home care or facility care is quite high, and it just keeps going up. And so in order to mitigate the possibility that it would be so costly it couldn't be affordable, I decided years ago that I would enter the business and help as many people as I can, and starting with my own personal family. And then it grew from there. But for this time we're in right now, one of the things that Mark and I talk about is that there are many facets to what we do. But the bottom line of what we do is we want to remove anxiety as often as we can and give people some peace of mind. And really, that's what insurance is for. It's to give you peace of mind, and it's to give you a sense that things are going to be okay. It's going to be taken care of. And there's nothing more frightening than thinking, I don't have health care. I don't have any kind of coverage for any kind of contingency. And we examine all that because there are situations where people are personally needing help, not just for their employees or themselves. And we try to offer that. We try to give them that. That's, I think, what Mark and I agree on all the time is that it's people first for us, always people first. That's why we're here.
What I like about what you shared is that you will do the spreadsheet, you'll kind of do the research and give, here are the best options. When we're trying to navigate this ourselves, it's like Greek to me. I have a hard time because each of the providers say something a little bit different and that sort of thing. So to have somebody like you who could just say, hey, here it is, all black and white. These are some of the nuances and the differences, and here's why you'd want to go this way instead of that way makes a big difference. I find shopping for insurance hectic.
And what I really liked is they take the time to explain everything to you in detail and make sure that you understand it. And will you always talk to the employees too, if the employees have questions?
Absolutely.
So I was happy to give one of my employees, Victoria, their information. They answered all her questions. She felt very confident after. So I think it's very important.
And for you and I, again, you've got how many on your team as far as employees? A handful.
I've got about 5.
Yeah. And I'm just doing contract work right now with folks. But as I shared with these guys last time we talked a couple weeks ago, I really want to be in a position where when I offer those positions, that this is something that I can offer, that there's a benefit package of sorts to do that. And I know that that's what drew you to working with them as well. Yeah.
And I would say that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for small business. And we offer a myriad of choices. And it's really based upon, like you just said, Karen, how am I going to grow? What direction do I want to take? What will work best for now? What will work best in the medium term? And then what's going to be best in the long term? And as we say, it's always evolving. It's constantly changing. And so we have to continuously keep up with that change. And for us, it's, again, if we can give you that value, the one value we can give you is information and communication. And once we do that, peace of mind generally will follow.
Yep.
Especially when you have all these other things you're juggling as a small business owner. And it's just too important.
I'm looking at just a few things that I had written down. We have a disability and long-term care. How important is it for folks to have those things in place? You kind of alluded to it with even entering the business and the industry yourself, thinking about how am I going to take care of my family down the road. But
well, if I may, Mark, I think that the most important thing for people to realize is once you get past a certain time in life, and we are going to reach that time in life, it's kind of like when you need to use readers for the first time. He's like, oh, wait a minute, I used to be able to read here. Now it's all the way down there. We all reach that age. It's just one of those things. And there's a financial consequence to not preparing for the future. And there are many different ways to prepare for it. Most folks are diligent about getting a life policy, so they have life insurance, they have death benefits, et cetera. People have health insurance. But the one thing that people don't prepare for and don't necessarily understand is that long-term care, let's say you become ill, but you don't perish, which we don't want you to perish, that's very costly, and very few insurances will cover it. And that's not known. Most folks think that Medicare or Medicare Supplements will cover it. It will not really.
It's a whole separate policy.
It's a whole separate policy. And the idea is that, and Dory and I were just talking about this the other day, it's essentially, if you want to boil it down, you can have your loved one cared for in one of two ways, either in a skilled nursing facility or a long-term care facility or in your home. Today with COVID, obviously, being at home would be the most preferable, but it's also the most cost-effective. So you have two benefits there. But the idea is that if you look at the statistics right now, 10,000 people every day turn 65 in the United States, and 7 out of 10 of them are going to need long-term care. And of those 7 out of 10 who do need it, it's going to be about 36 months on average. And on average, it's quite costly, depending upon which choice you make. Again, if you are in a situation where you yourself are going to need it, or you have loved ones, parents who are going to need it, it's a conversation we'd love to have with you, because what we try to do is create a sense of security, but also asset protection. In other words, what we try to do for you is protect you from having to use your own funds by having a risk assumed by a long-term care policy. That's really important, especially as you get older. Fixed income, how will you pay for this care? If it's a spouse or a loved one, how are you going to do that? It's not that simple. It's not that easy. And the choices start to narrow significantly the longer you wait to discuss this. So we like to give you the most time to do it and offer you the most choices and essentially inform you the best way we can. It shouldn't be a scary conversation. Actually, it doesn't need to be. There are a lot of choices, a lot of opportunities. But it's so important because the people who have to really be there with you, your loved ones, they can't really take care of you the way you think they would. Oh, I have a devoted daughter or son or husband or wife or a significant other. No, it's not that easy, and you have to really look forward to that and understand what's involved. And that's what we try to do, is give you a complete picture about it.
Can you purchase just dental or just a long-term care plan? Can it be a la carte?
Yes. Yes, there are many different situations where we will do that. We also will try to customize the situation for you. For example, there are such things as long-term care riders in life policies, and they are very useful because if you need it, it's there for you. If you don't ever use it, you still have a death benefit. And it's a very smart way to go. There are standalone long-term care policies for those who don't want to attach it to a life policy. And there's even recent innovations where you can simply prepay for care service, where you pay by the hour, and a person can come and basically be contracted to do that. So there are a lot of different options. The issue is with long-term care, typically, that's underwritten, is there are certain conditions that if you already have them, you'll never be able to get it. One of them is if you're diagnosed with a cognitive impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's, you can't be written for it.
After the fact. Wow.
Yeah. And then if you have HIV, obviously that's another disqualifier. So there are things that we try to bring to you before you need it. So the further ahead of the need that we are with you and speaking to you and helping you, the better we are, because once it's diagnosed, it can't be given. So that's a tragedy for a lot of folks because they don't know this. And suddenly they seem forgetful. They start noticing their significant other sees cognitive impairment and they go, oh, we better go to the doctor and have it diagnosed. Once they're diagnosed, Too late.
So I am an older parent. I have 2 adult kids, but I also have a 13-year-old at home, and I'll be 56 this month. These are real conversations that I have to be thinking about, especially now as a single parent. And I keep getting older. I mean, I'm healthy, right?
Sure.
But I'm extremely healthy. And that's part of what we considered when we were looking at my options. But who knows when that could change. And it's important to have you as teammates. That's the way I would consider it. You know, you guys are teammates with your clients to make sure that you're, kind of, hey, look, you're healthy today, but let's consider these different things. And what about Ivan? And what about your business? And those sorts of things. Because to your point, when we're business owners, our heads are down, we're in the grind, and we're thinking about what's going on today and maybe doing some long-term planning out here. But it's usually strategic as far as the business goes, not some of these extra things that we don't want to think about or we don't think about until it's too late. So it's really important to have you in our pocket before that.
And I would say, let's say you have a core group of employees that are really important to you. Not that anyone isn't important to you, but some really key employees, let's say. And you want them, in addition to giving a good healthcare plan for them, you want to give them access to this information. So we will come to you and we will explain what kinds of things we can do in addition to the healthcare plans that we offer, long-term disability, dental, and like Dory was asking, dental and vision plans, a la carte, long-term care a la carte. And there's a sense that the employee is being protected and cared for by the employer because they're bringing this resource to them. And again, the sooner you start this conversation, the better. I had this really poignant conversation with a client who said, I don't want my kids to pay for my long-term care. And she's in her 50s, just so we are. And she said, I don't want that because that's another aspect to it. You know, right now we're doing well. We're making a living. Everything's going right. And then all of a sudden that changes. And then there are these unexpected things that happen to us and we haven't figured out what to do next. So what do? We turn to our family and say, oh, can you help me with this? I don't know. And then you put them in a position. If they're about to have kids themselves or they already have kids, the kids are about to go to college. Do I help my mom and dad with their long-term care? Do I help my son or daughter with their college? What do? I've been there. So I can tell you, I've had these conversations. And the best thing to do is to plan ahead for this so that you don't have to have that choice to make. Your choices don't have to be so narrow. And that's what we try to explain. And I think that's the most important thing we do is give that sense of, I like to think about it, as I always say, Dory, we want plans to sustain your future, plans to ease your worry, ease your burden. There's a psychological and emotional aspect to what we do that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's really true. Once you've figured out the landscape and how to do these things, your anxiety level just is incredibly...
Oh, for sure.
It's so much better. I have to worry about that tomorrow. And it's really important. It's very important. That's why we like to be really close communicating with our clients and ask them, what's today like for you? What's tomorrow? And what's the next 10, 15 years? Let's talk about that because these things are going to change. Are you going to grow your business? Do you want to bring in partnerships with some of your key employees? What do you want to give to them for this? There's unlimited amounts of advice we can give on that. And at the end of the day, when someone feels cared about as an employee and they know that they're protected, the productivity is amazing. If you're not worried about your health because you're being, in a wellness program, productivity is amazing. If they have friends who are in the same industry and they want to bring them into their company, you should come here. Benefits package is great. They really care about you. They give you lots of information, and they really want to make sure that you're okay. That sometimes is more important than what the compensation package is, frankly.
Well, yeah, we look at it as an employee as part of the compensation package, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm saying that as a business owner, but I know back in the day, that was really important.
Sure.
Yeah. What got you interested in this industry back in '84? I mean, what led you to this?
What led me to this industry? Well, interesting question. I moved here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin back in August of '83, and I was a school teacher back in Wisconsin. And then I was in the tennis industry where I ran indoor and outdoor tennis clubs back in Wisconsin. When I moved out here, the tennis industry in 1983 was really an interesting industry, but there was a lot of hot weather. It was just, not a career that I was going to be able to continue. So I responded to an ad in the Arizona Republic in October of 1983. The ad was as small as you could find. It said salary up to $2,000 a month. That's all the ad said. That's it. So I called, and this was Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company, and I got several interviews, and I found out that, and they looked at my resume. I says, I don't have financial services background. And they looked at my tennis resume, and they says, well, if you can win on the tennis court, I think you can win in the sales industry.
And they were right.
So, and there, just...
Were you hired on the spot?
No. This was the most unusual interviewing process that I've ever experienced, because when I met with the general agent, he says, I'll tell you what, we want you to see if you like us, and then maybe we'll like you. And he had me come back several times. His name was Bill Ipum, a great guy. And I would interview with the sales agents that had the outside office. They had the offices with the window. This was on Central Avenue, across from the Heard Museum, 2035 North Central. Anyways, I would interview with these successful agents that had the outside offices with the windows. And after about 6 or 7 visits, I says, it was an interesting environment in Phoenix back in '83 because there weren't a lot of high-paying jobs. So you had to be innovative. You had to have some drive, and the goal was to be self-employed. So they had what they called the bullpen, okay? And I was out in the bullpen, and I was with a lot of agents, and the bullpen was a place where people turned over because they washed out. And I was 33 years old at the time, had a little bit of seasoning, had been a school teacher, had been a tennis professional teaching and playing some tournaments. And I just said, I got to make this happen.
And kept staring at those offices with the windows.
Right. Right.
And the guys and
That's
gals
where I
who were
want
in
to
them.
be.
That's right. But, you talk about motivation. I'll share this funny story and then we'll move on. But they had they put your name on the list there for sales contest. And of course, Hoffman was on the bottom of the list. And all of a sudden, things started to pick up. And they had an award called the Slam Dunk Award if you did well, okay? And every Monday, we used to meet, and the general agent had 5 envelopes. And if you were the leader of the week, okay, you got to draw one of the 5 envelopes. One of the envelopes had a $5 bill, one a 10, one of like $15, and one of the envelopes had a 50. All right. So here we go after a couple of weeks, and it never dawned on me, and I was successful 3 weeks in a row, and I drew one of those envelopes, and I'll be darned, every week it was $50. So after years later, I says, what the heck was going on with this?
How
I
am I
wasn't
that
that
lucky?
lucky. They said, no, that general agent put $50 in every
each of
the
them.
envelope to get me motivated. So that one of my stories. It's been a great run, and it really, I've had and Joe and I, we've talked about the great relationships that we have, and it's been a lot more than a career. It's been a lot of fun meeting a lot of people, and I've, it's been a lot of fun.
How did the two of you connect then?
Oh, well, we've been friends since when? I would say.
Well, we met at our parish,
Our
Our Lady of
parish,
Joy
yeah.
Parish. Yeah.
Well,
And
shout out for Our Lady of Joy, Carefree,
Right.
Is it
Arizona.
Carefree?
Yeah.
Carefree,
Yeah.
And we're members of the Knights of Columbus. So,
Yes.
Joe and I have been friends for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
It just made sense then, right?
Yeah.
Well, and we help people in Knights Columbus. That's our goal, is
Yes.
to help the community, the parish. Listening to your story, it's a great story because it shows you how people come from different directions on this. And for me, it became clear that I had the most satisfaction when I could help people and when I could see, as I mentioned earlier, that anxiety level just disappear. And a lot of people they have these anxieties every day, and you don't know that. You say, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm great." And inside, they're dealing with a lot of things. And you just sort of get to know people. You open up a little bit. You start to see what is really going on in their lives. And if you can address that and help that to me is like the whole thing right there. I mean, when I see the effect it has on people to not have to worry about that one thing, because let's face it, there are going to be a lot of things besides that you're going to worry about. But if we can take those critically important things away and let you have that sense of, I can now devote my time, especially going back to a business owner, right? And so, oh my gosh, I've got so many things to do. And it's so important to my employees that I do this. If I can help them that way, it's an amazing thing. And so Mark and I have devoted ourselves to just helping. And again, we get to know you, we get to understand what it is that's important to you. And there is no one size fits all, of course, but it's really important that we can give the perspective that somebody else can't. For example, when you talk about your vision of things, right? So we have about 270 degrees of vision from one side to the next. But there's a whole bunch behind us that we never see, but our friends and family and colleagues do. That's really critical. It's that one little bit of information that we don't see metaphorically that's going on around us that others can. And that's where we come in. We try to give you a perspective that you might not be able to get yourself because you're seeing all the way out to here. But it's back here that's important metaphorically.
The blind spot.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so we try to help with that and give you that understanding of what's possible, because it's really about what's possible. We don't dwell on the negative about what's not perfect about any given situation. We go forward and say, this is what's possible. This is what can be achieved. You can help your business. You can help your own peace of mind. You can help your own family situation. And the most important thing for us is family is the driving force of our work, because an employee and employer are family. Let's face it. At home, you have family. It's all about that, one form or another. And we really focus on that. And when you do that, good things happen.
Mm-hmm. Talk about individual health plans. So if you're not a business owner, you offer individual health plans. Is that what that means? That it's just a plan that's available?
Well, individual health insurance is, again, I'm going back to January 1st, 2014 with the Affordable Care Act. And it changed the market tremendously because the number of offerings. Prior to that date, there were a number of companies that would offer individual coverage. And there was screening, underwriting. You'd answer medical questions. They could decline a person. They could give exclusions. And, those were things that people didn't like, but insurance companies were able to, sustain themselves. It's a business. We run businesses on profit and loss. And a lot of people say, well, I don't feel sorry for the insurance companies. They're making all the money. They got the tall buildings. But it really got difficult when they took away the underwriting process January 1st, 2014. And with the Affordable Care Act, everything was guaranteed issue. So now, how do you price that when anyone, any risk, can get a plan?
Mm-hmm.
So our agency, we do help people on healthcare.gov get the affordable care products. But it's kind of an oxymoron because is it affordable care or is it expensive care? We chuckle about it, but it does cover pre-existing. So there's a plan out there that if people have certain pre-existing, they can get those covered, okay? But really what happened, after that date is a lot of people, when they didn't want to go to the Affordable Care Act policies, and the short-term plans back then were only 30, 60 days maximum, they were faced with, gee, what are my options, Mark? What are my options, Joe? And we'd say, well, is there any way one of you, husband or wife, is working, or if you got a job 30 hours or more at a business, you could get on the group plan.
Mm-hmm.
That became one of the main motivations for a lot of people. And 50, 55, 60, up to 64 people going back to work, they were doing it just for the health insurance. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But so we're still faced with the challenges of the individual market. We have a plan now where we can get kind of a short-term major medical for 3 years called tri-term. It's kind of an option that that's affordable, has some underwriting to it. On our group side, we can write down to groups of 2 lives, so we can talk to employers that are very, very small. But no, the small group the small individual market is really has kind of dried up from 1/1/2014, and we're hoping in the future we're going to be able to see, it's like auto insurance in a way.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to be in a pool with all the drivers, the DWIs and everybody be in that kind of a pool and paying those kind of rates? And people say, well, forget that, right? Well, with the health insurance, it's pretty much the same thing, is that there should be options where if somebody has pre-existing conditions, there's the ACA. We can help you. But there should be a fully insured individual plan that's medically underwritten to have that choice for people that do take care of themselves, that are healthy. There should be something for everyone. And we need to bring that back, because our hands are kind of handcuffed at this point. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
That's true.
Yeah.
Mark, maybe you could comment on the difference between fully insured and partially self-funded plans.
Okay.
I think that'd be important for people to hear.
Yeah. Partially self-funded, if you take a plan, first of all, a fully insured plan, and if you took it apart, there's what they call reinsurance for catastrophic claims. And if you, let's say, looked under the hood, it's called aggregate insurance. And aggregate insurance that's if there were shock claims in a group. And then if you had a multiple of claims in a group, that's called aggregate claims, okay? And then there's prescription claims. There's administration costs. Well, on a fully insured plan, they put that all together, okay? And, you charge a premium, but you don't see it. You don't go into the boiler room. You don't see all the nuts and bolts of the plan. With the partially self-funded plan, now the employer gets a chance to see what they're paying for aggregate coverage, for the specific coverage, for prescription coverage. You have plan designs where they can shop the prescription coverage and they can shop the reinsurance market. So they kind of breaking it apart, and they manage, there's a little more management involved. Where in the fully insured market, not transparent, good coverage, write your premium. But in the partially self-insured market, some of the plans actually offer, if a group, individual employers running good, they actually could get money back at the end of the year, okay? They get an aggregate report. They get monthly reports showing claims data, which is totally confidential to just the employer. Some people don't like that idea, but those clients that we have in the partially insured market, they've grown to see, we can really, if we work on our health, we're going to get good renewals, okay? And they'll actually see how many claims they have, so on and so forth. So it's more transparent. They get it. They understand it. They can see how they can get better pricing. Another big takeaway, those individuals that are in the fully insured market, sometimes they'll be with a carrier 2 years, and then the rates jump and they'll move. Those that are in the partially self-funded market, they tend to be in for a longer period of time. They have a longer relationship with that carrier.
Well, and I was going to say, too, there's a complementary benefit, which is wellness. So with respect to what Mark was describing about the report, the aggregate report, when you encourage wellness in your employees, that's actually cost effective to them for productivity reasons. It's also for yourself for the cost of care. And that's one of the things that a self-funded plan will really emphasize is wellness. How do we do things that are proactively going to increase our well-being and our health? And a lot of employees are really appreciating that, especially now. We have the situation that we're in. We have to understand what it's going to take to move forward. And we're navigating, as I say, these uncertain waters we don't know. But at the end of the day, there are abilities that we have, especially these plans, the way they're set up, that the more you increase the well-being and health of your employees, the more cost-effective it becomes, the more productivity you have. And for their sake as well, there's less for them to have anxiety about. There's that word again. Mm-hmm. And it comes back to really, I think, reap great benefits. Would you agree with that, Mark? Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really important when employers are looking at having you review their insurance, that if they can save money, Joe, you had a great idea that they could take some of the money that they saved and invest in sustainability or other projects that they want to do, depending on their business, being that they're a small business owner. And if they could save $50 a month, and maybe they could put that into a water system where they don't have plastic water bottles at the office, or maybe they donate that to an environmental nonprofit, whatever the case may be.
And I think that's one of the, again, complementary benefits to this, and that is to say, let's focus on our discussion about sustainability. So you have a couple of different ways you can disperse those savings, right? You can have technology that increases your sustainability, lowers your carbon footprint. You can hire more effective people because you have that savings, and that allows you to have your message broader, your client base expanded, or you can offer more benefits to your employees based upon the fact that you have more funds to work with. And so all of these things that come together, and again, there's a purpose to all of it, and it drives you to that purpose, and that's what's wonderful. Now, in some cases, the savings are substantial. In some cases, they're not bad. But the idea is to look at it at all and to give you that choice. Because if you haven't looked at it for quite a while, or your professional hasn't really worked with you on that as yet, they're busy, you're busy, we offer that ability to review it, completely complimentary, and we're happy to help you out in any way we can. But there are tangible rewards for this, I think, is what we talked about. And that's the idea that we try to go for, is that how can we help you, either a top-line expense or a bottom-line profit? If we can increase either of those two things, we're happy to help, and we always want to help.
It's this last conversation just now between the two of you that I love so much, and it's why I think Dory recommended that we connect. And to Dory and Green Living Magazine, it's all around healthy living. I mean, sustainable, healthy, eco-conscious living. Of course, you would work with folks like these guys, right? You spend a lot of time with different business owners, anywhere from large enterprises who are, taking care of their carbon footprint or whatever they're doing to create healthier lifestyles for their employees and their community, and all the way down to small business owners, right? You get to be in front of those people all the time and help give suggestions and tips and offer support in addition to learning with them as well, right? I mean, that's where you spend your time. So it's great to hear folks like you who are in the industry around health and financial services and annuities and benefits and all that stuff that really makes a difference for us. I love just that. It's not really collaboration, but it's just synergy. It's synergy.
A big shout out to Mark too, because he has been on a health and wellness journey, and he's actually doing really well right now. And he's made some really great lifestyle choices. And you've lost how much weight now?
Well, I lost 43 pounds, and I had gone to talk to a couple of friends that had gone to a particular clinic for weight loss. I wound up going to my cardiologist, and he gave me a recommendation to a doctor, nutritionist. Getting back to my tennis game, I had put on about 42 pounds, and I wasn't moving on the tennis court, and I was having a little trouble keeping up with these guys.
And he wasn't liking that at all.
I wasn't liking that at all. So, yes, and so the doctor, this was an interesting journey. It was about a 12-week journey. Working with a nutritionist, a doctor, and with her expertise and leadership, I was able to lose 42 pounds. And we talk about relationships. I'm going to be in touch with this particular doctor. This program's going to be over 2 years. We're going to be keeping in touch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, when I see her, I got to stay in shape. I can't, and she always is very complimentary as long as I keep the weight off. But anyways, it has been a real life-changing for me, at this point in time, but it's been great. But this is, employers want to promote these kinds of programs like Joe had mentioned.
Well, and the workforce today, the younger workforce, they're looking for these kinds of businesses, aren't they, Dory? They really want to align themselves with a group or a company that synergy is there, that it's in alignment with their own core beliefs and their values.
Mm-hmm. People, planet, profit.
Right.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And the people make the company. So
for sure. What's coming up for Green Living Magazine? We're getting to the end of 2021. What are you looking forward to, either the end of the year or even in this coming year?
A lot of great things. We've got articles on giving back, and then Earth Day's coming up. And with COVID, we don't know if we're going to be able to do in-person events, but we've definitely got some webinars planned, and just making people mindful of water and the importance of water and the importance of healthcare. And we've got our IG Lives every Wednesday, and just connect with us on social media.
And how can folks, if there's a company or organization that really feels like they have a story to share, can they reach out to you guys and see if it might be something that they can either be featured, or you're always looking for sponsors? Can you talk a little bit about the dynamics of how you work with individuals, professionals, as well as businesses?
So if they are interested in editorial, they can reach out to Kylie or Michelle, send a press release or a paragraph pitch. And then in terms of sponsorships, they can reach out to me, Dory Morales, or Victoria, or Sherry. And we'd love to work with them and form a great partnership like the partnership that we have with Joe and Mark.
Yes. And tell us about the food that you're doing with Jennifer. What you're doing, food preps, is that still going on?
Yep. We've got the Fresh Food Collab where we are boxing meals for those in need. And we've donated over 450 pounds of produce to different school districts throughout the valley.
Fantastic.
It is fantastic.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So needed right now. And Dory, we can find you and Green Living Magazine on social media. I mean, really, all the platforms.
Green Living AZ is our handle on most social media platforms. And then our website is greenlivingmag.com.
Great. We won't find you two on social media, but I think that's cool, right? I love when we talked about this opportunity. I said, where are you on social media? And you both said, look, these are long-term relationships. We're here. We're a legit business. We've been around for a long time, and we're just doing it old school.
Well, we have a website.
Well, of course. But
can you give
media.
us your website?
Yes.
It's HoffmanFinancialScottsdale.com.
HoffmanFinancialScottsdale.com. Love it. On Shooting Star Way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Any last thoughts or suggestions from any of you that I hadn't thought to ask and bring into the conversation that you want to make sure our listeners have before we close?
Well, a couple other takeaways that I want to mention for those of you out there listening 6 months prior to your 65th birthday, and you're getting inundated with all sorts of information about Medicare and supplements. I want you to know, and Joe and I want you to know, that this is a real challenging little piece of time for you. And our agency is very familiar and very helpful in helping you pick Medicare supplement plans and Medicare Advantage plans, and also Medicare Part D. You talk about confusion. There really is a lot of information that gets thrown at you in a short period of time, and people just don't want to, respond to the mail. They don't want to just pick up the phone and make phone calls. We find that our senior citizens, or if you want to call them that, this is the time they really want to meet with someone they can trust. They want to look at somebody. They don't want to look at, over the phone. They want to find somebody that they can trust, because this is kind of nerve-wracking for them to picking out a plan. Health insurance gets more and more serious as you get older. People get very, very concerned about not having good protection. So those areas, and Medicare Part D is very complex. That's prescription coverage. There's a lot of different plans out there. We represent a lot of different companies for Medicare Supplements, Medicare Advantage, and also for the prescriptions.
And you said about 6 months before someone turns 65 is about when they're going to start get that mail.
Right.
So when should we be, I hear you saying that we need to be in a relationship, we ought to be in a relationship with someone like you or you guys specifically so that we're already comfortable to ask those questions and you can help us navigate it. But if someone's getting close to 65, when should they start thinking about some of these decisions?
6 months prior.
Okay, right, which is why they get inundated with the marketing.
Right, exactly.
Well, and the thing too is that you may still be in a group plan with an employer and there's a transition period. Some people will choose not to transition to Medicare at that moment or maybe a little bit later, and some will choose to. And so we, again, help you navigate through that situation. And if it suits you, and more importantly, if it's to your best interest to transition to Medicare at that moment when you turn 65 or stay on the plan you're with for a little bit longer, we can help you with that. And again, there isn't one size that fits all in this situation. We try to customize our advice to anybody that we work with so that they get the best information.
I love and appreciate that you guys are willing to come to businesses, help educate, as well as speaking with, as Dory said, either the employer or the employee when we have individual questions. You had said it a couple of times, Joe, education equals peace of mind. And I can't help but think that obviously is fitting when it comes to health insurance and financial services, but also the work that you do with Green Living Magazine, right? Education. You're educating and providing folks with peace of mind and helping us really look at our life, our community, our globe, all these things that we have coming at us from a perspective of we're all in this together and we have to take care, right?
We are all one.
We are all one. We really are, right?
So true.
And what's the COVID saying? We're all in the same river, but on different boats. Or I don't know what.
Yeah.
I've heard that saying so many times, and I know I botched it. But Dory, anything else that I didn't think to ask or bring into the conversation as it relates to you and Green Living that you want to make sure our listeners are aware of?
Just pick up a copy. They can pick up a copy of the magazine at Whole Foods or Albertsons. There's 675 other locations throughout the state, and just would love to connect with them. So please connect with us on social media.
And we can also have a subscription.
Yep.
And receive it directly.
Yep, to their home, print or digital.
Love it.
Well, if I can get just a little shout out to Dory, if there was ever an example of commitment and sincere belief in her mission, it's Dory.
And tenacity.
And she's one of the finest people I know. And it's true for her that this really matters. It isn't just something that's contemporary to our society. And why wouldn't you want to help do something very important like sustaining our planet? Why wouldn't you? And when it comes to it, hands down, Dory is the finest person when it comes to that.
Agreed.
Just a little shout out.
Thanks, Joe. And you and Mark are leaders in the healthcare, insurance, and financial service industry. And I'm thankful and grateful to have you as partners.
And I'm excited to have provided the platform for this conversation.
But Karen, we need to give her a big
No.
shout out.
Oh, yeah, I was going to go there. Yeah.
She
don't need
is
to do
just
that.
dynamic. She has
Thank
an
you.
amazing podcast, and I feel thankful and grateful every time that I'm asked to be on this podcast.
Well,
And miracles happen here.
For sure.
And we're very thankful and grateful that you asked us to
Very
participate.
thankful.
Very glad to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure. And that's what we do, right? We want to shine the spotlight on business owners who are making a difference on behalf of individuals and families because we're a community. We are all one. And it's been my pleasure to spend this time with you and get to know you and share you and your story with our listeners. You've been listening to Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting from Tempe, Arizona, right here at the Max 6 Conscious Capitalism Arizona headquarters. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Owicki. Thanks for listening.